Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Camouflage the World. I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be taking a look at the US ERDL, or Environmental Research and Development Labs, brown dominant or highland pattern of camouflage. So in 1968, the US decided that a standardized camouflage pattern was probably in our best interest for whatever reason, because olive drab wasn't performing as well as they wanted to, even though it was fine in my opinion. So anyway, they went to this old pattern that was developed in the late 1940s, and they started experimenting with it a little bit. I've already made a video on the green dominant or lowland version, and people were saying that this brown or highland version didn't come out until later on in the 70s. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Both variants came out in 1968 and were being fielded by special operations troops, and eventually the United States Marine Corps was almost all transitioned over to the ERDL pattern. So these are the same exact style as the US third pattern jungle fatigues, the slanted pockets, 100% cotton ripstop material. It's literally the same exact cut, just in a different camouflage material, or pattern of material, I guess. And this was intended, actually, it's called Highland for a reason. The northern part of South Vietnam were commonly referred to as I Corps, which is the kind of the area by the DMZ where a lot of the Marines were fighting and the 5th Infantry Division was fighting, was more brown and kind of mountainous. So they decided that the green variant was a little bit too green for that. They needed something that had a little bit more brown earth tone to it. And that's why they came out with two variations. They were A, testing them, and B, issuing them to different people in different parts of Vietnam. So the lowland, the green dominant, which is not this one, was issued more towards the central and south Vietnam, where it's more lush and jungle, and the people that were up in the mountainous areas were going to try to be, or they tried to issue them this variant. Now, the difference between this and the green dominant, I'll make a video on that separately, but just to touch on it, is obviously you can see this is a lot more brown. It doesn't have that kind of bright green undertone. It's got a khaki and brown undertone. There's green in it, but it's not that lime green. It's more of a kind of hunter green. And this is actually the pattern that became US M81 Woodland, the color scheme and everything. Now this differs from M81 Woodland, obviously, just like the green dominant, by the edges were bleeding into each other, and it's a little bit smaller clusters of color. The US M81 Woodland, which I'll also do a comparison video on, is a lot bigger and chunkier, made for Europe. This is more made for a lush environment, a more jungle / rocky environment. So that's kind of the idea behind actually having two variants, and this one being the more brown one. So these did come out in 1968. These definitely were used from 1968 on. And the reason people think that these didn't come out till the 70s is mainly because a lot of these uniforms were recycled. And another video I'll be making is the quote-unquote Gen 2 ERDLs, which are the transition uniform between this uniform and the M81 Woodland. And those are the straight pockets and stuff, but that's for another video. And everybody thinks that although those were made out of original material, ERDL brown dominant leftover material, there were also some made in green dominant. So it was basically whatever ERDL material they had, and they were issued to, airborne troops, Marines, more specialty troops in the military before they actually went to the standardized M81. So this was used in Vietnam. It's not just in the 70s. It's not a post-war thing. Obviously, this jungle fatigue cut, wasn't really made after 1972, I believe, 73, somewhere in there. We'll just say early 70s. So to say that it wasn't used in Vietnam is not accurate at all. I actually know people who were in Vietnam who said, yeah, we had both the green and brown where we were. It just depended on what you got. But they liked the camouflage better because it was cool looking, it was new, and it actually works a little bit better. So that's just from people I've talked to. Your experience or, talks with veterans may vary. But anyway, yeah, so this is the brown dominant. Again, I keep repeating myself, but I really like this pattern. I like ERDL, both variants, is probably my favorite US camouflage pattern ever. I think it was more effective than M81 Woodland just because it's got smaller color splotches and the bleeding edges. You can see here, it's not a straight, blocky, sharp edge. They kind of just fade into each other, which is pretty common on a lot of really successful camouflage patterns, including Scorpion and Multicam today. So it just kind of laid the baseline for US camouflage through the 20th and 21st centuries, minus UCP, but the color scheme and everything. So why they went to the straight pockets, I have no idea. I really don't get it. because they were made out of the same material, but they just went with the straight pockets and then eventually the BDU. But yeah, that's beyond me. So yeah, this is an original example that's tagless, of course, because it's pretty used. This particular one, let's see if we can rotate this. Yeah, you can see the shadow. It was used by somebody in the 82nd Airborne Division. When they took the patch off, they probably ruined the uniform and had to turn it in and whatever. But I don't know why they'd want to keep that. Maybe souvenir. A lot of people cut patches off of stuff. But anyway, yeah, so this is an original example. It's about a size medium regular. I'll probably be selling this in my shop at some point because it doesn't fit me. Or I may keep it as an example of an original Vietnam War ERDL brown dominant. I don't know. I think the brown dominants are a little bit harder to find in my experience just because so much of the material and so many of the uniforms were used even beyond when the BDU was introduced, because it looks very similar to the BDU. I've seen pictures of guys wearing the transitional brown dominant ERDL uniforms until the late 80s. In Germany and stuff, you can see people over there doing operations with the Bundeswehr, and they're wearing a brown dominant ERDL uniform. So even this one, and then the green dominant, I don't know why they didn't really use that much. Maybe because it wasn't the same color scheme as the Woodland BDUs. So they said no, it's too easy to tell. But yeah, anyway, that's just my guess. It's anecdotal. It's not a fact. But anyway, yeah. So this is the nice Highland variant, original jungle fatigues from the Vietnam War, and that's really all I've got to say about it. Sorry I didn't get into the the super nitty gritty of it, of what kind of coffee they were drinking when they discovered this and remade this and started printing it again and whatever. I don't know all the technical details. All I know is why it was introduced, how it was introduced, and when it was introduced. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you consider becoming a supporter on Patreon, it really helps the channel do cool stuff. I got a lot of cool things coming from my current patrons. It's pretty interactive. I like that platform. I can't really afford to fund the channel out of pocket anymore, so that's why I'm asking for crowdfunding, because I really want to keep the channel going with more cool stuff and new things, but I can't afford to be buying new things all the time. So that really helps out. Thanks to my current patrons. You guys are awesome, and we got some really cool stuff coming for the channel. So hopefully they'll get off their ass and ship it, but anyway, that'll happen in time. So thanks to you guys. Consider becoming a supporter if you're new to the channel or whatever. If not, I appreciate you watching, and let me know what you think. If you got any questions, I'll try to answer them. I'm not an expert or anything. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. So hope you learned something, and I hope you like this series. So thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next episode of Camouflage of the World.